Third time's a charm. Let's go.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Here we go. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Movieland Video, where your three favorite clerks discuss the films that they watched this week and what the staff recommends you check out. I am your host, Tyler Ortega.
Angel Garcia.
Hi, I'm Stanley Donen.
And welcome to episode 3 of the podcast. It just seems to be getting realer and realer and real every time we go one more episode ahead.
What?
It just seems a little surreal that we're still doing this, you know, man. Like surreal. It's so surreal. I said realer. That's a term that you're not going to be able to find in a dictionary. But welcome back to the podcast, everybody. This is it. This is episode 3.
I sent out a tweet earlier asking what everyone's favorite third movie in a series is. I said Back to the Future Part 3.
Tied with?
What?
It was in the tie with.
Oh, and that was tied with Psycho 3.
So how does one, especially for those two different type of movies, like figure out? It's just personal preference at that point.
There's so few movies that are the third movie is great. I think, unpopular opinion, Back to the Future Part 3 is my favorite of all 3.
Huh. I never would have thought that about you, Jason.
It's got the funniest dialogue. Look, we all love seeing Michael J. Fox's mom try and bang him, but I think that the third story is the best one.
Because Mary Steenburgen gets to try and bang the doc.
Which is what we've all been waiting for.
Is that the train that they filmed on? I think that's still in the back lot, or it was. Like maybe
they put it
in the last 5 years.
It's at Universal Studios Florida.
Oh.
It used to be outside of what was the Back to the Future ride, but now it just sits in the middle of Springfield, which is very strange.
But they shot part 3 in the back lot of Hollywood, correct?
They shot it in Hollywood, yeah. I think they went to, there's still some like Western ranches in Hollywood or north of Hollywood that they film Western scenes in. I don't know how much of it was filmed out there versus the back lot, but yeah, a lot of it was filmed at Universal here. I don't think any was filmed in Florida.
I'm not sure if I would take breaks, but I would hang out at this little train area in the back lot of Universal Studios. Yeah. So I would always go there and just hang out.
I don't think that train was ever used in a movie. They used it as part of the like 1970s version of the studio tour. It used to actually work, and they would do a Western scene. The tram would stop and cowboys would come out shooting guns, but that train was part of it. I think they actually robbed the train at one point in time, but I think it was only built to be part of the attraction of the tram tour.
I can't believe that still stands, just even without the train.
They're probably just too lazy to do anything with it. I'm glad it's out there. Because you can just walk up to it and take a picture with it.
Yeah, and it's like set up like a real train station. Like they have the where you buy the tickets or whatever. You could just hang out there.
Oh, to me, that's the most magical place on earth is the Universal backlot.
It's the best. Mm-hmm. It's a big playground for adults and kids, I guess.
You know, funny we bring up the backlot because a lot of great movies have been shot on that backlot. But one movie I just rewatched today with my dad for the first time was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And oh man,
I was there. I was there the day they shot the scenes. I took a golf cart down. I knew that they were there. You couldn't get anywhere near it. The whole place was surrounded with like security and trucks and all that stuff. But I parked on the other side of the wall where they were filming the scenes that they were filming there for the day. I couldn't see anything. I couldn't hear anything, but I just sat there taking in the moment, thinking when I watch the movie and they're filming on this Western street, I'll know that I'm on the other side of that barn. I'll know that I'm there in a golf cart, quietly listening to nothing, seeing nothing, but just knowing that I'm there.
And dude, man, they shot pretty much all of 2018, I believe, pretty much between the Universal backlot and all of LA, and dressing it to the most beautiful, beautiful portrayal of Hollywood ever. Oh man, I think it was, how many fucking times have I seen that movie? I think I've seen it I think this was my 7th or 8th time watching it today. And it was so magical. The funniest thing is I was laying in my room trying to watch another movie to fit in one more for the podcast today. And all I heard was, dun, dun, Bounty Law. And I got up, walked up to the living room. I'm like, are you watching Once Upon a Time? He's like, yeah, I've never had a chance to see it. And I'm like, you son of a bitch. All right, I'm coming out to the living room. And I walk out and we watch the whole movie together. And I was like, this movie just doesn't get old. It's just such a rewatchable movie. I can't describe it. Out of all the Tarantino movies, and a lot of his are rewatchable, that one is on a whole other level of rewatchability.
I don't think I have ever paid to see a movie in a theater that many times. I think that's the most I ever saw it in a theater.
Yeah, same. Saw it in New Beverly 3 times, at the Cinerama Dome, the first and very first time. It's probably my favorite time, as much as I love New Bev. And I saw it once or twice at the AMC City Walk. But I mean, dude, you cannot beat that Cinerama Dome 70 millimeter experience. That was
I think I actually hit 8 times in the theater.
Jeez.
Damn, you're lucky.
Yeah, I saw the 70 millimeter print at the Egyptian Cinerama Dome. But I heard 35 was the way to go for this film. Or what do you guys think?
Yeah, it was shot on 35, but it was shot on so many, the Bounty Law show was shot on 16 millimeter prints, and then the movie itself was 35 mil, and then they would jump back with McCluskey for 16 millimeter, or I think it was 8 millimeter. You know what? Tarantino dropping film reels like crazy. I don't know what he's shooting on what, but God, man, there's so much to that movie. It almost feels like an enigma of that movie, because there's so much extra footage, hearing that Jack Nicholson had a part in the movie, but they don't know if it's real or not. The fact that James Marsden and Tim Roth were in the movie, and Tim Roth's part hasn't even been shown yet, but they want to make a 4-hour cut. I can watch and talk about this movie all day, so I'm not gonna make you guys suffer for that, but I love this movie
I agree
so
with
much.
Tyler. I think 35 millimeter at New Beverly is the best way to see it. And you'll probably, if the country ever reopens, you can probably still go to New Beverly and see it sometime, maybe once a month, but
probably at midnight.
That is the best way. I'm glad we saw it at ArcLight. Tyler and I saw it together the first night at ArcLight. And when they show the Cinerama Dome in the movie playing Krakatoa East of Java, I think that's the name of the movie, the whole audience cheered.
Yeah. Lights turned on and it was a full blast of applause.
Yeah, that was a great way to watch the movie. But I would say your best viewing experience, 35 millimeter at New Beverly, is probably the best way to go.
I mean, you could watch any Tarantino film there.
Yeah, that's true. And they have themed trailers and cartoons and everything beforehand. If you think that you're getting the best experience at your local theater, this theater does it on another level, not just with Tarantino movies, but with every movie you see.
Our last movie experience with us 3 was at the New Bev for Halloween H2O.
Which I am so glad you guys introduced me to that movie, because it is I need to watch all of them, so I'm gonna get to it. But in terms of Halloween movies so far, it's probably my favorite one next to the original Halloween. I just love H2O. It just has that
thing.
Yeah, it has that flair to it.
I think it is my second favorite movie.
Well, that score too, come on, we need that released.
Oh, yes.
I think it was.
It's like the total fan. We're talking over each other so much.
Halloween gets us in the mood, guys.
Mm-hmm. Now we're quiet.
Listen, it's sometimes when you're doing a podcast on Zoom, you don't know who's talking sometimes, because it could be lagging or not. It kind of jumps back and forth a lot.
Well, yeah.
This podcast is going to be so much better when we can finally do it in person.
Yeah, I know. When the time comes.
Well, I just brought that up because I miss both of you guys hanging out, watching movies. And then, speaking of the New Bev, that was the last time we were all there for a movie theater experience.
Yeah.
Oh, seeing on 35 millimeter is the best that movie has ever looked. It made me appreciate it even more seeing it in a movie theater.
And oddly, great matinee. Weirdly.
It was
a great 2 p.m. movie.
What's scarier is not knowing if your car is going to be okay. Parking at the New Bev.
It's the worst. And I don't even park there. I mean, I take Ubers there all the time because I don't drive, but parking there is such a bitch pretty much for everyone I've gone with, like to try and find a spot. I think I remember one time when I was with Jason, I can't remember what movie it was, but he was having such a rough time trying to find a parking spot. And when I was walking back with him, it was such a long walk. I'm like, where the hell did you park? And we walked like blocks down. I couldn't even
it was several
remember.
blocks.
Yeah.
Dude, we were like almost late to H2O. Like we couldn't find parking for shit.
Yeah,
you guys made it within like 10 minutes
time
to spare. I could go off on a tangent and talk about our favorite film that we watched at New Bev. And I already have my answer, but I mean, that's up to you guys if you want to do a little tiny discussion about that.
I don't mind.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right, everybody. This is not our usual thing, but we're going to do something a little special here. We're going to talk about our favorite movie experience at the New Beverly Cinema. This is a place that is near and dear to all of us here at Movieland Video, and it'd be nice to talk about one of our favorite experiences, like a movie that we saw there, the whole experience, everything from trailers to the movie itself, maybe all the way to the second film that plays as a double feature. So we're just going to talk about our favorite double feature or film that we've seen there. We'll do it in the same order that we've been doing it. Angel, what was one of your favorite experiences there?
Well, the first time I went to New Beverly was 2010, 2011. I have no idea. But I discovered it because I discovered foreign cinema at the time. So specifically Godard, they had a double feature of My Life to Live and Contempt. And I had seen My Life to Live because that's the first Criterion I've ever owned. I knew nothing about Contempt. I wasn't even aware of anything other than it was a Godard film. I left the theater and it became like top 2 favorite movies of all time. So not only did I see a movie I've never even heard before, but I left that theater now realizing what my favorite movie was. So that's how big, especially the old 35 millimeter print of Contempt. Just, it's so luscious. Criterion needs to, hopefully, if they still have the rights to it, release a Blu-ray of that, because I know Studio could not release that Blu-ray. Yeah, that was me. How about you, Jason?
Man, so I already talked about going to the Russ Meyer. I already talked about going to the Russ Meyer double feature at New Beverly. I think probably one of the most unique experiences that I had at New Beverly would have been on New Year's Eve. I don't remember what year it was. It was the last double feature that they showed before they closed the theater down for like a full year. So I want to say it was 2016. There was a double feature that they did on New Year's Eve. And I remember Patton Oswalt actually tweeting about it saying, oh my God, they're showing these 2 movies together. This is the end of a very dismal year. And New Beverly is ending the final showing of 2016 with these movies. I think it was 2016. The first one in the double feature I actually showed at a movie night that we did at the house, which was a 1982 West German horror film called Der Fan.
That makes more sense now.
that watching that movie in the theater was just like, I'd never seen it
film
before.
Print too.
Yeah, on 35 millimeter, just with a group of people that had never seen it. It was, look, this is another movie that if you ever decide to watch it, it's available on Blu-ray. Don't even read the back of the box. Don't even look at the back of the box. The less you know about this movie, the better.
Absolutely.
But it's the best way to describe it is that it's a film about obsession. That's all I'll say about it. But Der Fan. And then that was paired with a movie called Christian F., which is a German biopic from 1981 that's kind of about the nightmare of drug use. This movie is rough. This movie is so rough. Like, it is dismal. It is depressing. It is dark. It is also a movie that stars David Bowie. Not stars David Bowie. It has a cameo by David Bowie. There's a girl in the film that attends one of his concerts. He makes a pretty big cameo appearance in the film. But the movie itself was made to warn children about drug use, and it's the best way to put it is it's a horror film about drugs. So instead of Michael Myers slashing you, you've got drugs killing you from the inside out. Roger Ebert even said that it was one of his top 10 movies of the year when it came out. He said it was so utterly, bleakly realistic. This is a movie of hell. So if you want to get real depressed, find a copy of Christian F. And but seeing those two movies as the double feature to end that year, which it probably was 2016 because that's the year that Trump was elected. I think that's why they did that.
Oh.
I think they were mourning the country. They were mourning just existence with the end of that year after he was put in office. So
I don't know what it was. A part of me kind of got sad inside, and it just came out in a weird way. I didn't know how to describe that.
I do got to say, Der Fan was totally the best film I've witnessed from one of your movie nights.
With a crowd, with that specific crowd we watched it with. Mm-hmm. I agree for sure. And it was followed up by a fucking great movie, The House of the Devil, which it's a great one.
Yeah, me and Tyler, we saw that at 35 millimeter last year.
At Egyptian. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I looked it up. I was wrong. They showed it December 2017. So I guess was it 2018? I guess it was 2018 that the New Beverly was closed.
Oh my God, yeah, that's right. Because then December 1st they showed Dazed and Confused at the midnight, and that's when I went. Okay, yeah, no, that's right. That is about right. Batman Returns, boom, or was it Batman Returns? They showed for the matinee? I believe so.
I think so. They wrote an essay about both movies if you want to look it up on their website. But yeah, highly recommend those two movies, though they're very, Christian F's very hard to find on Blu-ray. I haven't found it yet, actually, but I do have Der Fan.
From Mondo Macabro.
Yeah.
Talk about depression mode. Because it's depressing. My movie at New Bev. It's such a toss-up though, because I've had a lot of incredible experiences there. I'm gonna name some, but these aren't like ones that I would put it up there though. Like I think the Sharon Tate triple feature comes super, super close. Like it's right there, because when you get a triple feature of Valley of the Dolls, The Fearless Vampire Killers, and The Wrecking Crew on a new 35 millimeter print, I was blown away that I had energy for every movie, and I had such a fun time watching all those movies.
Great movies to put together too. The Wrecking Crew became one of my favorite comedies after that.
It's such a ridiculous comedy, folks. I want to stress that. Like, Dean Martin is great in it. Sharon Tate, it's so odd. That movie shows so much of her potential as a leading actress. I'm telling you. And it was just cut short by all the stupid bullshit that happened after. And, like, honestly, I would have loved to see her in more stuff. It, like, just getting out of the theater after Wrecking Crew, I was just so sad. And I was like, man, I would have loved to see her in so much more work. But
she was so funny in that movie. There's once, I won't spoil, but there's one scene specifically that just I remember laughing out loud in the theater, like belly laughing. But yeah, she was hilarious in that movie. So was Nancy Kwan.
Yeah, pretty much it was just a stellar cast.
Drunk Dean Martin.
All I can say is there's a scene with an explosion that is so out of left field. I laughed so hard in the theater. I couldn't stop laughing, man. That was one of my favorite scenes in that movie. But besides that comes close. But I think if I were to choose any double feature, I think it would have to be Home Alone and Dial Code Santa Claus. I think that is my favorite, and I'm going to tell you why. Because I watched Home Alone so much as a kid. That was one of my favorite movies to watch at Christmas, one of my favorite movies to watch with my mom. Like, that was the movie I'd always put on because I had the VHS. Going to a sold-out theater to watch a movie that I love so much and know about like crazy, and to laugh, especially at all of the trap scenes and everyone just dying of laughter, was like, it held such a special place in my heart. I loved it so much. And the trailers beforehand, they had a 35 millimeter print for the trailer of Home Alone 3. Like, where's that nowadays? I don't know, but that was really fun.
I was blown away to see a 35 millimeter trailer for Home Alone 3.
And I remember just like whispering to Jason, have you seen that movie? And he's just like, no. And I'm like, you should. So they showed Home Alone, and then Dial Code Santa Claus, which is this foreign film that is pretty much the plot of Home Alone, but it's an R-rated film. I don't want to spoil it, but there's a scene that when it happens, it sets the tone for the rest of the movie because you don't think it's going to happen and the whole crowd is wincing. And then when it does happen, you're like, oh, okay, so this is where this movie's going to head.
Yeah, I think I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, it's pretty dark, especially that scene.
It's such a different contrast. And I remember even, I don't know who the moderator was at the beginning of the movie. I don't know what they're called, the one who introduces the movie, but he was like, if you have kids here, just a little bit of a heads up before this second movie starts. You know, it's up to you guys, but just be aware. And I was like, ooh, just sat in my seat getting comfortable. Like, I'm ready to go. Let's see what's going on. But that's the double feature I choose. If I were to choose a film that was at a matinee, it's a toss-up between Halloween H2O and Magnolia. Because to see Magnolia in theaters was an experience, no matter what.
Yeah, Halloween H2O's got to be top of my list. I just never thought I'd see that movie in a theater on film.
For like $6.
For $6, yeah.
We miss you, New Bev. We love you. And now that we have all that out of the way, it's time to talk about the movies we watched this week. This is not a recommendations of the week, but we just talk about some of the movies that we just decided to watch and leading up to our recommendations. So let's do that. Angel, what are some movies that you watched this week?
I watched 4 movies, and they're all in a collection set. And that's the collection set I'm going to recommend. So my turn, I hand it over to Jason.
Wait, what?
I watched 4 movies, and those 4 movies are part of a collection set that I'm going to recommend later on in the show.
Oh, so you don't really have like... Gotcha. Okay. I was gonna say that's quick.
I watched 4 movies. Jason, what do you got?
I'm not even going to say what they are. All you need to know is I watched 4 movies in a set.
I'm going to go in depth.
But honestly, that makes a lot of sense too. If you're going to watch 4 movies that are part of a box set, it's such a long undertaking. So that's totally understandable. So Jason, Mr. Jason, what you got?
Now, I don't know if Angel is referencing the Lindsay Baker box set, because that's what I've been watching this week.
I am not.
Okay, because that's a 4-movie collection. So I was like, oh, this is about to get interesting. We have the same viewing schedule this week.
I wish we did have same viewing schedule. That way we could all just talk about it. But I mean, I like surprises too.
Exactly. Yeah. That's why it's always fun to surprise especially in the recommendation part of the pod.
Well, I told you last week that I had started the Lindsay Baker marathon, but there's so many bonus features that I still haven't gotten to the 3rd movie. So let me just go ahead and put out the first 2 movies and overall recommending this whole box set just for the movies alone. Lindsay Baker, when I first heard, I'm very new to this director. When I first heard the announcement of a Lindsay Baker box set, I said, who's Lindsay Baker? I thought that was the director. Umberto Lenzi is an Italian director. He's, I'll talk about him in a little bit. Let me talk about first the 2 movies that I watched, starting with the first movie in the box sets from 1969. And it's called Orgasmo. Believe it or not, there's 2 movies out there called Orgasmo. Creators of South Park made one, which I wasn't even aware of that, but there's Orgasmo with a Z. This is Orgasmo with an S. Essentially, these movies in the box set are giallo films, which is an Italian term kind of designating like mystery fiction. Orgasmo was originally called when he wrote the screenplay. The director titled it Paranoia. Italy said, no, that's not sexy enough. We want it to be something that really is like, really makes you horny to go to the movie theater. So they changed it to Orgasmo, kind of against his wishes. But the United States said, Orgasmo, that name is way too out there for us. What else can we call it? So they called it Paranoia in the US. It's called Orgasmo in Italy. This was in 1969. 2 movies from this one, he would make a film that ended up being called Paranoia in Italy. But the US said, we've already released one of your movies called Paranoia. We called Orgasmo Paranoia. So then they ended up calling that movie, God, what was the name of that? They named it something else. I have to look it up. So there's 2 movies called Paranoia, but it's depending which country you're watching it in, we'll let you know which movie you're actually watching.
You can buy the 88 Films release of Paranoia with the Paranoia cover, and it comes with the slipcover. It's really nice.
Is the 88 Films Paranoia Orgasmo? Or
it's
is
Paranoia?
But so Paranoia is the American title. I think it's called A Quiet Place to Kill.
Mm-hmm.
Or is it the U.S. title for Orgasmo?
Well, this is from the Italian collection, so I'm assuming it's straight Italian. I don't know. It's Paranoia on 88 Films, whatever
Hold on,
that
I'm
means.
gonna look it up because I need to. Let's see, Paranoia, 88 Films.
Oh shit! Yeah, god damn, so many names. You have A Quiet Place to Kill. You got Paranoia.
This one is. Is this A Quiet Place to Kill?
Because there's a one sheet that says Paranoia. The same exact one sheet also says A Quiet Place to Kill.
Okay, so the
It's
one
A Quiet Place to Kill.
Yes, the one that 88 Films released is A Quiet Place to Kill, where Orgasmo was also known as Paranoia, but only in the US. But in Italy, A Quiet Place to Kill was called Paranoia, so that makes sense why it's the Italian collection.
I own Mondo Macabro released a Lenzi film called An Ideal Place to Kill, and I own that.
That one I don't know of and haven't seen. Both of the movies that I watched, which were Orgasmo and So Sweet, So Perverse, which was also 1969, they're mysteries that just continuously reveal surprises. So I'm going to say the less said, the better. It's almost like if you're going to watch a movie like Psycho, you don't want to go into it knowing, at least me personally, the way I watched Psycho as a kid, all I knew was that there was a shower scene in the movie. I knew about the shower scene. I didn't know anything else. To me, that was too much to know. I didn't know anything about Norman Bates, about Janet Leigh. I was completely blind going in outside of the shower scene. These movies are a lot more fun going into them not knowing anything. The bonus features on these discs, this first movie, Orgasmo, has 2 commentaries by different authors and critics. My favorite kind of commentaries are authors and critics. Roger Ebert hated this movie. And let me just say something, because I know I think I've said on this podcast before that Roger Ebert is my favorite writer about cinema. He probably is my number one. That being said, I don't understand a lot of the movies that he hated versus the movies that he loved, especially being someone that was so into exploitation and he wrote exploitation films with Russ Meyer. He hated a lot of exploitation films because they were exploitation films. That doesn't make any sense to me. I love his positive reviews. His negative reviews baffle me. He hated this movie. That baffled me. This movie just has like a lot of style. The performances are amazing by all the actors, but specifically Carol Baker is the Baker of the Lindsay Baker box set, who I didn't really know anything about either. Tyler mentioned Baby Doll last week, for which she won an Academy Award nomination for Best Actress in that movie. So that was 1957. A year before that, she was James Dean's love interest in the movie Giant, which was one of 3 James Dean movies. So she was pretty huge in the States. She signed a contract after that, became a sex symbol after she made a movie called The Carpetbaggers in 1964. In 1965, Carol Baker plays Jean Harlow in a biopic. And this movie is such a huge failure financially, critically, that she no longer trusts Paramount, specifically Joseph Levine, who basically controlled her career. She no longer trusted them, but she was under contract. So she left the States and went to Italy. That's how bad this movie was received. Is she literally ran away to Italy. And that's where she started what would be considered the second part of her career, which was making giallo and horror films. She eventually returned to the States after like a decade of making movies in Italy and did kind of like, for the most part, crap, like very small roles in some big movies. She was in David Fincher's The Game with Michael Douglas. I don't know if you've seen that. That's another great movie that feels like Hitchcock, and the less you know about it, the better. And I think it's on Criterion. She was in Murder, She Wrote for an episode. She was in Kindergarten Cop in 1990 with Arnold Schwarzenegger. So kind of sad that her career ended on that note. These movies that she made with Lindsay were so far great, highly entertaining movies. Suspense mystery. The second movie, So Sweet, So Perverse, comes with commentary by Kat Ellinger, who's wonderful. I love her. And both of the movies come with soundtracks. I just got through all the bonus for both these movies, so I'm moving on to the next 2 in the coming weeks, so I'll talk more about those when I watch them.
Nice.
The other movies I watched this week, Angel, I don't know if you've seen this. If anyone in my life has seen this movie, it would be you. I finally, after all these years, I think it's been 7 years since it came out, I watched the only movie so far directed by Danielle Harris, called
Among Friends. I have.
Have you seen it?
Yes, I have. I bought it like the Tuesday it came out. Yeah, it's like the round table, and they have like Kane Hodder there, and then you have all these other horror people there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Kane Hodder makes a pretty funny cameo. But what did you think of the movie?
They came out what 2009?
2013.
20 what? There's
Yeah,
no way.
it's on the iTunes movie and on the Wikipedia page.
They had. I remember. I was huge Danielle Harris fan. Still am. They had a premiere for this at City Walk, and I remember it was like
the Lovitz.
yes. And then I saw pictures of it. Like, dude, I want to go to City Walk. I want to see all these people because there was like big horror stars. And I bought the DVD. I watched it. I don't really remember. I thought it was okay. It's a bit confusing.
You're probably just like me in that I don't want to say anything negative about Danielle Harris because I love her. So
yes,
I want more Danielle Harris movies. Watching this does not make me not want to watch more. I will watch anything she makes.
Mm-hmm.
But this movie, I don't know what the style. She said the style that she was going for was a 1980s B movie. Now you've sold me at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've already sold me with her name as director, but that description, I don't care what the movie's about. I'm sold. It felt more like a 2000s MTV TV special, or it felt like, you know, when you're standing in line at horror nights and you're watching those like 3-minute movies.
Oh, yeah.
It felt like that kind of style where it was just the characters were very unlikable. The concept is, I like the concept. All these people get together for a 1980s themed party and then shit goes sour. Like it turns into a horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
But you just have to watch it. But it's a long 80 minutes, and it's only 80 minutes long.
I'll put it this way. Like, I would not have seen it if it wasn't Danielle Harris.
Oh, there would be no, I mean, even if you can watch the trailer and kind of get a taste of what I'm talking about. But the trailer even looks a lot better than the actual movie.
If Danielle Harris did not direct this, I would not even remember the film.
No, nor would we have seen it.
But I still have the DVD, and I still want her to sign it, just because I'm a fanboy.
Yeah, because she directed. I mean, there's something still so cool about her directing a movie. And I don't even want to talk about the things that I didn't like because I don't want to have any part in her not making another movie. That being said, it's been like 7 years, so I don't know what's happening. She should get on that if she's going to make more, because I'll be the first in line, even though I didn't really care for this movie.
Same, you and
the
me.
last thing on this list that I want to talk about, and this could turn into a 4-hour conversation, but I just have to mention it. Whatever happens moving forward, if this turns into a very long podcast because I say what I'm about to say, so be it. I just have to say it, and I've already said it to both of you this week. We've already talked about Halloween, and we've talked about Danielle Harris, so this is the perfect time to vent. This week, rewatching Rob Zombie's Halloween movies.
Mm-hmm. Hey, fucking go for it.
Tyler, have you seen Rob Zombie's Halloween movies?
I have, yes. I haven't seen the second one, but I have seen the first one. Or maybe I've seen the second one, but it's just such a blur because I watched it with my mom like once, and I'm like, I'm not even into this. So, yeah.
So I saw the Rob Zombie Halloween in 2007. I loved it. When I saw it, I loved it. I'm not someone who really likes remakes. I don't really think that they need to happen, but I was excited just that Rob Zombie was taking on Michael Myers, that Malcolm McDowell was going to play Loomis. I don't need to know about Michael Myers as a kid, but if you're going to show that to me by way of Rob Zombie with Malcolm McDowell, I'll again, first in line. You're going to bring back Danielle Harris into the franchise, and you're going to bring actors like Sid Haig and Dee Wallace. Oh, you've got my attention. The first movie I remember loving. The second movie I saw in the theater, I remember leaving and thinking there were a few things that I had a problem with, but I remember overall feeling satisfied. Now, that being said, I've rewatched, since this Halloween box set came out, I've rewatched these movies several times. What I didn't realize is that we don't currently have easy access to the theatrical cuts of either of Rob Zombie's Halloween movies. The first movie drags on Blu-ray, but the second movie specifically changes the entire ending. It changes a lot in the movie to make it something that will just make you, as a Halloween fan, will make you very angry. I remember thinking, I don't remember being this upset in the movie theater watching this film. When it was over, I started looking for the theatrical cut. Couldn't find it. Doesn't come with a box set, which is supposed to come with everything. But Rob Zombie, when these movies were released, he didn't even want it available on Blu-ray. So release day of Halloween 2 on Blu-ray, you could get the unrated director's cut on Blu-ray, or you could get the theatrical cut on DVD with no bonus features. It was just the ultimate shaft. Like, he basically said, I'm ashamed of this. Do not watch this. I'm not even going to put it out on a special edition Blu-ray. If you want it, you can buy the garbage DVD. Some point in time recently, they've put out the theatrical cuts on Blu-ray. So I just ordered that, and I'm going to watch the theatrical cuts to see if I am far less offended as a Halloween fan. But just a couple of quick things. Why, and Angel, you'll probably be a lot more familiar with this question than Tyler. Why is Scout Taylor Compton as Laurie Strode completely playing the character of Rob Zombie in Halloween 2? I love the idea that you open with a shot that takes place directly after Halloween 1 ends, picking up the very next moment. And I love the idea of, here's a character that went through a lot of shit in the first movie, and in this second movie, we're going to see how fucked up she is as a result. Rob Zombie's idea of a girl being messed up from being stalked by a rampaging, murdering brother that she realized that she had. His version of that is now she's really into Alice Cooper. Now she's really into like 70s rock. Now she's into everything that Rob Zombie's into. Now she's wearing dreadlocks and dressing like Rob Zombie. Rob Zombie took Laurie Strode and made her Rob Zombie. The biggest gripe I have with her character in this film is that in her bedroom, over her bed, is a giant poster of Charles Manson saying, "In Manson we trust." Now, if you're Laurie Strode and a psychopathic killer just sliced up your whole family, are you going to start being into Charles Manson? What the hell kind of sense does that make?
I have a comment on this.
Sense.
So there's no reason why Scout Taylor Compton is Laurie Strode other than the name, but Laurie Strode is just a segue. I'm not sure if this is a spoiler or not. I'm not sure, but I'm gonna say it anyway. It's a segue into Angel Myers because she's Angel Myers. I don't want to say specifically what that is, but the last name says it all. So I guess that kind of creates that Charles Manson, Alice Cooper, because I am evil and I do have this in me because I'm no longer Laurie Strode legally or whatever. So I guess him using Laurie Strode for the first Halloween is like, oh, people know that name. But until you find out who she really is, I guess in a sense you can say, that's where you kind of just see her be just tormented and all into all that shit you just described.
Alice Cooper is not evil, by the way. He's like a theatrical. He was on the Muppet Show, so I don't want to hear that Alice Cooper represents evil. Like it just feels very like, you know, now she works at this, you know, this music store, and she just becomes Rob Zombie. She doesn't become this. She is a crazy person. She spends the entire movie screaming and crying. Speaking of Danielle Harris, by the way, I think she's the strongest thing about Halloween 2, along with Brad Dourif, who gives probably the best performance in the movie, where Danielle Harris is herself. You know what? What I also love is Bill Fagerbacke, who plays on SpongeBob SquarePants as Patrick. He actually is the like cop partner to Brad Dourif's character in the movie. I remember in the movie theater seeing him. I don't know him as Patrick. I know him as Dobber Dubinsky from the sitcom Coach, which most people kind of like tilt their head when I talk about, like, what are you talking about? There's a sitcom in the 90s. He was like a dumb blonde on the show. I love that man. And seeing him in a Halloween movie, I think that was maybe one of the reasons I walked out of the theater like, you know, I may have had these problems, but, you know, we had Bill Fagerbacke, so who cares?
I know him as the principal, as the principal of All Grown Up, the Rugrats All Grown Up. He's the principal.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he became a voice actor after Coach. His voice is so, I mean, it's
distinct.
So distinct. I love that man. That being said, I love Malcolm McDowell. I even left the theater thinking, I like the new spin on Loomis where he's trying to sell this book. He irritates me more watching it on the Blu-ray as a character, not as an actor, but what they did with that character in comparison to what Donald Pleasance played in the original films. This is not Loomis. This is not Laurie Strode. These characters, I don't recognize them, but I think the director's cut has a lot to do with my frustration. So I will report back probably next week when that Blu-ray arrives. I'm popping it in immediately, and I want to know, what did I see originally? Because I can tell you the ending was far creepier and far more resonant than what they do in the director's cut. And it's completely different. And okay, one more thing. We talked about Laurie Strode being Rob Zombie. Michael Myers is also Rob Zombie. He spends half the movie not wearing a mask, and he looks just like Rob Zombie. And it feels like a very pretentious piece of crap when you're watching this movie. It feels like he's intentionally trying to destroy the franchise. There's some really weird sequences with his wife and this white horse, and young Michael Myers, who's played by a new actor, acting like a complete dope. I just hate their performances and the story. All of it is so frustrating. That being said, I know you haven't seen it since the movie theater. I'm interested to see what you think about it if you rewatch it today.
I was only a big fan of it because Danielle Harris was in there, so I'm like, yes, 5 stars, Danielle Harris.
You know what's weird? Even with all my anger and hatred of it, if I was to put this on Letterboxd right now, I'd still give it 5 stars for whatever the maximum. Because there's so much in it. I still return to it because there's so much there. But it's well made, but it's so poorly thought out.
I mean, you just had to remember it's a man that's a fan who got the rights to it and made Rob Zombie's Halloween, not John Carpenter's Halloween. So if people expect that,
I still stand by the first movie, even though I think the magic of John Carpenter's Halloween is you don't know anything about this killer. You don't know why he's killing these people, why he's targeting Laurie Strode. He is just evil incarnate, and there's no explanation. And the movie ends with pretty much the revelation of this thing, this shape is unkillable. Even John Carpenter says, it was just a bad idea to make them brother and sister. I did it because they were paying me, and I got really drunk and came up with the idea. That's not verbatim, but whatever he said was along those lines. I even enjoy the original Halloween too. And I love the idea of starting right after that movie and saying, what happens to the character in a horror movie after the horror is gone? What happens to them psychologically when they have to live with all of the nightmare they just lived through? I think that's such a fascinating concept. It was poorly executed in this movie, but I might like it more if I go back and watch the theatrical cut. I don't know. I'll let you know next week.
I would also need a theatrical cut so I can compare and contrast. So you got to link me to where you got your shit.
Yeah, eBay. Like
Copy
$15 for the double feature. Yeah.
Got it.
You know, in the entire time you guys have been, I've been listening like crazy, and I find it so odd, like just looking on IMDb alone. And again, I want everyone to know that I have not seen Halloween 2, Rob Zombies, but I have seen the first one. Just reading the IMDb for Halloween 2, it says in the alternate versions section, just everything about the director's cut that's different from the theatrical cut, and how it was like, say for instance, in the first Halloween, Rob Zombie was working with the 2:39 aspect ratio for the very first time. And then how, when you jump back to Halloween 2, he goes back to the same aspect ratio he uses in all of his movies, which is 1:8:5. So I think, I know that it may seem kind of non-existent in the way I'm saying it, but what I mean is, like, it seems like the first Halloween, he was trying to make something, you know, like theatrical, like good, like a good Halloween movie, because I think he really, really loved the franchise, or still loves it. Who knows? And then in the second movie, it just seems like everything that could have been pulled that was good from the first one just got thrown into the trash for the second one, and it just doesn't seem like what it could have been. And it just
what I've gathered from what I've read, and this could be incorrect, and by the way, I love that we've all three started reading the book Taking Shape. I got mine in the mail today. From what I've gathered is that basically that first movie, people had problems, or they're always going to have any kind of franchise. People are going to bitch no matter how great it is. However, I think that he was so burned by the negative things that people had to say about the first one and the studio said, we're making a part 2 whether you do it or not. I think he kind of reluctantly took the writer-director reins of the second movie out of fear of what they would do if he didn't. And he just went nuts. And I don't know if it was just flipping the bird to the people that hated the first movie, saying, oh, you didn't like that, well, wait till you see this. I don't know. It feels that way when you watch it. It kind of feels like the whole J.J. Abrams, Rian Johnson mask thing from Star Wars, where it's like, you created this new mask, guess what? It's coming off the face in the first frame. We're taking away Adam Driver's mask. It felt that way in Halloween 2, where it's like, you want to see what Michael Myers looks like? Guess what? He looks like a bum that goes to Bonnaroo. And no offense to Bonnaroo fans, but he looks like he's been unshowered for about 7 days, rolling around in the mud. Like, he looks like Rob Zombie. I get the fact that, why is Michael Myers going to shave? Of course he's going to have a beard. Why is he going to go buy a razor and shave in the middle of all this killing? But he just looks so much like Rob Zombie. It drives me crazy. And I don't want to see Michael's face. That's part of the magic of Michael Myers, is what's behind that mask, that mystery. Oh, that mystery is just removed immediately in this film.
Well, he's humanized, that's for sure. But in a sense, that's like the Halloween curse. Like, if you're going to have this huge name and you do go out in the box office with your movie, oh yeah, they're going to want the second one, whether you're ready or not. So that's usually how part 2s go on about.
Originally, there's going to be a Halloween 3, and it's going to be called Halloween 3D. But they replaced that with Scream 4. So we got Scream 4 instead of Halloween 3, which honestly, I think we won.
I'm fine with that. Yeah, I'm fine with that, actually.
I got Wes Craven back. I'm all in.
Exactly. And they got Kevin Williamson back for it, too. So it's such a 1-2 punch with that.
The creator of Dawson's Creek is the writer of Scream. And it's so good that we could go into the whole Halloween franchise, but that's all I had to say. Is Rob Zombie's Halloween, still bitter about it after all these years, after 10 years. But hopefully the theatrical cut makes me happier. I'm excited to rewatch it.
Also, another thing, too, for Kevin Williamson, now go from Dawson's Creek to that, it's like with Eric Harriser, who wrote remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street, and then he went and he wrote the Academy Award-nominated film Arrival. So it goes either way. You know, a lot of screenwriters are going to be like that. That's just one little quick thing I wanted to throw in there. But I'll read this user review for Halloween 2 before we jump into my movies I've watched this week. And the top user review on IMDb is, made Halloween Resurrection look like a masterpiece. Take that as you will.
I mean, yeah.
I'm a fan of both films. Like, I can watch Resurrection and have a good time. Like, I'm not that angry fanboy at Resurrection. And I could watch Halloween 2 and have a good time. But if you get deep into details like this rabbit hole we did, we're going to find all the problems in both of those films.
That's true.
Yeah, that's the thing, too. At the end of the day, I still return to this movie and invest money in ordering the theatrical cut. I will still return, even if it is just the director's cut, I would still go back to it. There's enough in there that makes me happy. Undying Halloween love, no matter what you put us through.
All right, Tyler.
All right. Well, with that being said, oh man, it took 3 episodes for Jason to lose it. That was awesome. I gotta be real with you. That was fantastic. All right. Well, let me see. Because I had a COVID scare in my family recently, I wasn't able to watch a ton of movies this week, but I did watch like 2, maybe 3. Okay. So the first film that I watched was James L. Brooks's As Good as It Gets. I've been on a Jack Nicholson binge a little bit lately, and honestly, like, I just love how different of a romantic comedy that movie was. I like that it just felt so refreshing to see something like that. Helen Hunt, Jack Nicholson, Greg Kinnear. I mean, that shit's already as good as it is, or as good as it gets. Sorry.
As good as it gets.
Fucking title. But I didn't realize how many Academy Awards it was nominated for. Like, that's a lot of, I think it was nominated for like 6 of them. I mean, that was honestly a surprise when I was reading into that. But As Good as It Gets, that was a great movie. I really appreciated that one. And then I watched Jack Nicholson and Diane Keaton, Something's Gotta Give. Nancy Myers wrote and directed that one. That was a fun one as well. I've just been trying to look for comedies and romantic comedies to get me out of this funk that is this quarantine. So it's nice to just kind of stray away for stuff like that.
Did either one of you watch the Helen Hunt sitcom Mad About You?
No, but I heard about it though.
It's a great sitcom, but then once you get towards the end of the series, they remove the audience. There's no more laugh track, and it becomes a story about cheating on each other, and it becomes very depressing. It's such a weird, hard left turn that they made, and I appreciate that they did something different, but I remember back in the day when that happened, everyone, like, that shook everyone. What is happening? And you couldn't turn away from it. It was so depressing. This is supposed to be 30 minutes where we tune in and laugh. So you brought back those horrible memories from my childhood of Mad About You.
Yeah, something like that may or may not weaken your audience.
Yeah. I got one more movie. I just remembered. I saw Dave Franco's directorial debut, The Rental. It's on iTunes right now to rent for like $6.99. But I got to watch that movie. I wish I could have saw it at a theater, because for Dave Franco, for your first movie to direct to be a horror movie, that's honestly pretty sick. The movie was very much kind of as basic as it can get in terms of like character development, all that. Dude, Dan Stevens and Alison Brie and that kid from Shameless, I forgot his name. And this newcomer, I don't know who she is. I want to say her name just because she was honestly the standout of the whole fucking movie. Like, she actually made the movie what it is. Sheila Vand, that she was phenomenal in the movie, probably the standout. This movie does some crazy things that no other horror movie would really dare to do, especially when it's a directorial debut. So I'll give it that, but that was really, really great. I thought it was above, not subpar, like above that for a horror movie. So good job, Dave Franco. You actually made something good, and you're a lot better than your brother. And I started watching, not movie related, but this will probably be my last thing I say. I've been watching a lot of episodes of The Dick Van Dyke Show. I've been watching a lot of that lately.
I love The Dick Van Dyke Show.
Such a good damn show. Carl Reiner, man, that guy was ahead of his time in his writing. So fucking good, man. I know it's not a movie, but I've been watching that a lot as a TV show this week, and I love it so much. It's like one of my new favorite shows.
Have you watched a lot of Carl Reiner's movies?
No, but I need to, man. That guy is such a talent.
Watch his Steve Martin movies. The Jerk and Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid are just brilliant. As are Rob Reiner's movies. I don't know if you've seen Spinal Tap, but that's just another. Oh, just those three movies right there. There's your trip. If you want a triple feature of happiness, The Jerk, Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid, and Spinal Tap is the perfect triple feature of happiness.
I'm going to watch one of those movies for sure. I definitely need to watch Spinal Tap, but those, I was looking up a lot of Reiner's work, and dude, yeah, he also did, what was it, The Man with Two Brains? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, The Man with Two Brains. Yeah, all of his Steve Martin movies are just masterpieces of comedy.
Had no idea he worked with him so often. That's what made me happy. I'm like, shit, he got to work with Martin that closely. That means they really liked working with each other.
Oh, they're great, yeah. I think Martin wrote The Man with Two Brains as well. Which, speaking of Steve Martin as a writer, LA Story is one of the greatest comedies I've ever seen. And especially living here, you guys would both appreciate it. LA Story is recommend. That might be one of my recommendations one day in the future, but you made me think of it.
I still need to check it out, man. It's on iTunes. I don't mind renting it. I don't mind paying money to rent it, so I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah, that one's worth it.
When you rent something on iTunes, can you watch it on your TV?
Yeah, you can watch it on any of your Apple products, phone, TV, all that jazz. You can, when you buy it, you have a selection to like rent and watch it then, or you can watch it later and you have up to 30 days before it expires.
Okay, so. I think, all right, sounds good. I want to watch The Rental.
And it's a short movie, by the way, everybody. It's like an hour 35, less than that. So it's a quick little horror film. So now that we've talked about the movies we watched this week, now we're going to go into our main segment of the podcast and last segment, where it is our film recommendation of the week. The way we go about this segment is it's not the movies we watched throughout the week that we're like, oh, that's such a lovely time. No, this is the movie that we watched and we're like, we have got to tell you all about this movie in great detail, because as I've seen in our chat this week, these guys have got a lot under their sleeves from what I can tell. So this is the ones that we really want to tell you guys about, ones that we really, really love, and we hope you get to check out. And if you guys are interested in a double feature, we try our best to pair it up with the movie that we're recommending. So you guys can have a lovely double feature at home with the missus or kids or, you know, the whole family. So let's start off with Mr. Angel here. Angel, what is your film recommendation of the week?
Speaking of our group chat, Jason Anders this morning mentioned my movie. So I was all like, yes. And I was like, okay, how do I like avoid this conversation? Let me try to change the topic.
I don't even know what I said.
I watched the Sister Street Fighter collection.
Sister Street Fighter, Su Shiomi, beautiful and lethal. Sonny Chiba, the blinding fury of karate's deadliest fists, like no woman you've ever seen. In her hands, any object becomes a weapon. Against the most treacherous enemies, she's at the top of her form. The lightning quick strokes, the brutal skill, the most terrifying action in the most deadly battle. Su Shiomi and Sonny Chiba. In the most spectacular display of the most savage karate. He's a one-man army. They won't be hard to find. There'll be a trail of bodies leading right to them. Karate's deadliest team in Sister Street Fighter. Coming soon from New Line Cinema. Rated R.
Oh my God.
Really?
So I watched the complete Sister Street Fighter collection, and Jason Anders posted that he bought the Street Fighter collection, and then I posted that I also bought the Street Fighter collection, and he started telling me trivia about it. I'm like, oh shit, I'm about to talk about all this. So I'm like, how do I? So I try to avoid the topic by saying, I hope Scream Factory can replace our damaged goods, blah, blah, blah. And he kept talking about it. It's like, fuck. So that was hilarious. I got so nervous.
Even when we're not discussing the movies, we're somehow
we're all
psychically
connected somehow.
Yeah, that's so. But I mean, this is not like a new release. This is completely random that we would both have purchased the Street Fighter in the same week on Blu-ray.
You guys practically have the same brains at this point. Like in terms of movie love, you guys are like spot on with each other. It's a little freaky.
Just so random. Like, I can't even explain how random that was. So I watched all 4 films. It's starring Su Shiomi in the lead role that plays Koryu Lee, who makes her electrifying debut, which led her to become Japan's female action icon. When casting the film, the production first pick for lead was Taiwanese-born Angela Mao, a veteran of Hong Kong action flicks who had previously played Bruce Lee's sister in Enter the Dragon. But when the studio found out she was unavailable, Sonny Chiba recommended one of his star students from his Japan Action Club, stunt training school, finding Su Shiomi. At 18 years, she hardly had any film experience. They knew they were taking a big risk with their choice, but with serious training, she rose to the occasion and delivered. I'm just gonna disclaimer, I'm reading. I took notes, so if it sounds like I'm reading a novel, I'm reading a novel. I'm reading something I wrote down. Writer Masahiro Kafuda did the screenplay for the first 3 films, who also wrote School of the Holy Beast, which is one of my favorite nunsploitation films of all time, and it very well may be the best Japanese nunsploitation film. Director Yasuko Yamaguchi directed the first 3 films. Shigeru Ozawa directed the 4th installment, who was the original director of the original 3 Street Fighter films, which was the film series before Sister Street Fighter starring Sonny Chiba. The original Street Fighter turned up the violence and gore in martial arts films to historic new levels and was the first martial arts film to be branded with an X rating for violence alone. When released in the US, Sister Street Fighter holds the same mindset. Sonny Chiba makes his appearance in the first Sister Street Fighter film, but does not reprise his role from the earlier films. A rundown on what each film is about. The first film is about a drug ring responsible for importing heroin from Japan to Hong Kong that captured and imprisoned Koryu's brother and used him as a guinea pig experiment for their drugs. Koryu is off to Japan to save her brother with the help of Lee Martial Arts School, including the powerful Kenichi Hibiki, played by Sonny Chiba, for the inevitable battle royal with the drugging. The second film went into production before the first film was even released. The sequel, titled Sister Street Fighter Hanging by a Thread, seemed to increase the amount of crazed violence and sex. This time, Koryu heads to Yokohama in search of a woman kidnapped by diamond smugglers who smuggle their diamonds by surgically implanting them to the buttocks of Chinese prostitutes. Koryu's older sister, working as a jewelry designer, is secretly involved. The fight scenes are tremendous. The violence and gore are very creative, especially one scene around the ending, which sticks to me so hard. I'm gonna tell you about this scene. It's just one scene, it's no spoiler. When they're attacking Sister Street Fighter, the attacker is going to go stab her but misses her and stabs his own partner. So while the attacker has stabbed his own partner, Sister Street Fighter just cuts off his hand while his hand is still stabbed to her partner's stomach. So like she's laying there with a hand that is clearly off his body with a knife still in her stomach, and just that shows like how crazy gory this shit is. And I was just like, dude, this is cinema. This was my favorite film, like out of the whole bunch, the second film. When you get to the third film, you can see a certain formula that is used in these films, with all stories starting in Hong Kong, where someone would deliver her bad news. Usually someone gets abducted, where she then has to go travel to Japan. She hangs out at strip clubs to spy on her enemies, and you have the final climax of fighting the big boss. Although Deja Vu has hit hard by this third film, it is not in any way a complaint. On this adventure, Koryu's childhood friend gets abducted by gangsters, all at the same time trying to reunite a little girl with her mother. Although similar to its predecessors, there's enough differences to make this a solid entry to the series. This also marks the departure of director Kazuko Yamaguchi from the film series, who would embark on a new trilogy of films starring Sonny Chiba, which were Karate Bullfighter, Karate Bear Fighter, Karate for Life, which were films loosely based on karate master Masoyama, the founder of Kyokushin Karate, a style that was considered the first and most influential style of full body contact karate, who was also Chiba's instructor. Funny thing is, United Artists was the American distributor to some of these violent Sonny Chiba films at the time. And at the same time, UA were collecting Academy Awards with One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Rocky, and Annie Hall. Fourth film is another drug ring who captures and kill. It's almost the same formula. They tone down the graphic violence a lot. It's almost like a comedy. It's an unofficial sequel into the film series, and you have the main character playing someone else. It's still good. It's still a solid entry. There's still a lot of action. I still really enjoyed it. In Quentin Tarantino's script for True Romance, he has Christian Slater watching a Sonny Chiba triple feature consisting of The Street Fighter, Return of the Street Fighter, and Sister Street Fighter, which came out in 1974, which was a real triple feature New Line Cinema had out in theaters that helped renew interest in Sonny Chiba movies that led New Line into reissuing the films in 1996.
Did you see True Romance?
No, that's why I wanted you to stop me into good, because I know you've seen these films.
Oh yeah, well, True Romance I saw on VHS as a child, and I fell in love with that movie. That's whenever you tell someone, oh, you got to see True Romance, there's a whole different kind of movie I think that is in their head when you say that, just based on the title alone. I remember sitting in a movie theater and they were playing a song from True Romance. The score of True Romance is inspired by the score for Badlands with Sissy Spacek. So it sounds very, very much like that score, but different. But it's a very obvious, like, if you didn't listen to them side by side, you might think, oh, they used the music from Badlands.
Wow.
So I heard it playing in a movie theater, and it's this very, like, it almost sounds like a xylophone, like, dun, 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 and it's very happy. And I was sitting in a theater with my friends. I said, oh, this is from True Romance. It's one of my favorite movies. And they're like, well, since when do you love romantic comedies? Which I do, by the way. But this is not a romantic comedy. This is a drug-fueled action, very violent movie. There is a point in the movie where Christian Slater and Patricia Arquette are sitting in a movie theater, and they're showing scenes from The Street Fighter. They're showing the Sonny Chiba, and then it shows them leaving the theater, and they're both like karate chopping each other, and they go to a diner to talk about the movie. I'm like, this is the most romantic movie I've ever seen. That was when I became aware of Street Fighter and started trying to figure out a way to watch it, which back then there really wasn't a way.
Sure.
But on DVD, they eventually released a crappy version of the three movies. But I was elated when I finally found it. So I watched those movies, fell in love with them. A goal of mine when I was in 8th grade, there's a book called Quentin Tarantino Shooting from the Hip. And in the back of it is just this long list of all of his favorite movies. And I was like, I'm going to check off I'm going to see all of these movies. But any top 10, top 20, top 15 list that you see from him online always has the Street Fighter movies. So that became priority for me to see. And then once Kill Bill came out, he uses Sonny Chiba as the wise old man who trains the bride how to fight. Not necessarily trains the bride how to fight, but he's the one that has the samurai swords that works at the little eatery. So I thought it was so cool when we were watching Kill Bill for the first time, seeing and Sonny Chiba. I was like, oh my God.
There's more trivia with Sister Street Fighter connected to Kill Bill. Tsuchiyomi continued to work with Sonny Chiba on multiple TV series, especially Shadow Warriors, where Tsuchiyomi played a lady ninja named O-Ren, which Quentin Tarantino had acknowledged as one of the inspirations for O-Ren Ishii in Kill Bill.
Who was also inspired by Miko Kaji, which we talked about last week.
Yeah, no, they're two Japanese legends. I was thinking, like, what you compare this with, and other than the Street Fighter collection, which is obvious, I want to do females kicking ass. So either I thought about female Prisoner Scorpion, but I think Lady Snowblood would be a better pair for Sister Street Fighter collection in general. And this is on Arrow Video, all 4 films, really thick booklet. I know we were talking about that today.
When did you buy this?
I think last year, like around this time last year.
So it's not there anymore.
Who knows? I mean, I know Fry's and Burbank sells it. It doesn't have a slip. I'm not sure if that specifically means there's no booklet in it.
I've been looking on eBay. I've been asking sellers. They're like, I don't know. I don't know if it has the book or no, it doesn't have the book. But no one has said, yes, we have the booklet in this. It's thick. That makes me excited. I need to find it.
Oh, it's more about Sonny Chiba than anything else. Like, they talk about him more than anything else, and he's only in 1 film.
That's strange that they talk about him. I guess because they don't have the rights to the original movies. They're like, well, we'll write about it.
Oh yeah, probably, most likely. Well, that was my pick. Sister Street Fighter Arrow Video.
Well, I said, damn, there we go. Well, now that we have gotten done with that, now we're going to move on to good old Mr. Jason here. Mr. Jason, what is your pick of the week?
Well, last week, I ranted about my favorite actor, Mr. Bob Hoskins, legend.
Beautiful man.
Beautiful man. Led me back to watching all these bonus features for The Long Goodbye and Mona Lisa and other movies, including Super Mario Brothers. And I put this in the chat when I looked at the back of the Blu-ray and realized that the documentary that was released on the UK Blu-ray for Super Mario Brothers in 2014, which is an hour long and all these new interviews, and it's wonderful. It was directed by David Gregory, who I interviewed. Wow. We talked about last week. I interviewed he pretty much founded Severin, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, I keep watching documentaries that have his name connected to it, and I'm like, oh, if I would have known. Oh, if I would have known that, I would have asked him all about it. But I thought that was so cool that he directed it. So that being said, today, let's talk about Mario. Super Mario. This to me is the time to talk about Super Mario, because if you don't know, he's celebrating his 35th anniversary this year as a character. Are you guys fans of the Super Mario Brothers, the games? Like, what level of fandom would you say you're on when it comes to
on a scale of 1 through 10?
Yeah, let's go 1 to 10. 10 being like the ultimate fan. 1 being I couldn't care less.
I think I'm a 3.5.
3.5 for Angel.
I'd say about like a 4.5. I've played pretty much almost every Mario game at least once, excluding like Paper Mario, that stuff. But like some of the main ones on Wii U, Switch, I've played pretty much all those.
If you asked me in 1996, it'd be a 10.
Because of what game?
Because of the games. I also watched the movie when I was a kid, but I didn't understand the movie as a kid until we rewatched it at your house.
Oh, the movie's just so weird. But we'll get to that in a second. Mario, for me as a kid, I'll never forget receiving my Nintendo Entertainment System, plugging it in for the first time. My parents actually said, we know a lady at church who's going to come over tomorrow night and teach us all the secrets. Like, we actually put time aside to have a guest over to the house to show us all the Super Mario Brothers secrets. She showed us how to find all the warp zones. My head basically exploded. Like, as close as my head has ever been to exploding, being introduced to Nintendo and to Mario, and then to all these secrets on the second day of playing it. This became an obsession for me as a kid. Super Mario Brothers 2 came out. I immediately bought it. If you were alive when Super Mario Brothers 3 was released on Nintendo, there were commercials of people holding hands across the world, and then the camera backs up showing a globe where they all make the Mario face. It was the thing. I don't remember any conversation that I had in the 3rd grade other than talking about Super Mario Brothers 3. I remember lies that people told me about secret levels that they found that I looked for years, and it turned out they weren't true. They made it all up. Every day at school for me was a mission to find secrets about Mario Brothers 3. This whole franchise became an obsession for me. That being said, they finally made what they touted as being the very first video game movie. This is the first movie ever made about a video game. And that was Super Mario Brothers in 1993, which starred Bob Hoskins, John Leguizamo, the guy who played every villain in every movie in the 90s, which was Dennis Hopper. Just him being in it as King Koopa made me feel like this is legitimate. Bob Hoskins versus Dennis Hopper. This is epic. The first trailer for that movie was just like, what is going on? It looks like Blade Runner, which they said they wanted it to be a weird and dark movie that felt like a cross between Ghostbusters and Wizard of Oz. But ultimately, this movie was a failure. They spent $35 million to make it. No, I'm sorry. They spent $48 million to make it, but it made $35 million. So it was considered a financial failure. Critics weren't kind to it. The video game community was not kind to it. I watched this movie today unironically. Like, I watch it because I still love these characters. I love the way that they were portrayed in the movie. I had probably my first real movie star crush as a kid was Samantha Mathis playing Princess Daisy in this movie. I thought she was just so cool. Like, I wanted to find a girlfriend that was a paleontologist who was also a princess of a fungus kingdom. She was in like a slew of movies in the 90s, and then she just went away. Like, she was in, I don't know if you've seen Broken Arrow with John Travolta and Christian Slater. She was the love interest in that movie. Again, was totally in love with her. So this movie, I told you last week that the first movie I ever saw in a theater was Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So Bob Hoskins was the first actor I saw on the big screen, if you don't count Roger Rabbit, because technically he was the first one to appear in the movie. They went through so many actors to play Mario in this film. Dustin Hoffman said he wanted the role, but they passed on Dustin Hoffman for reasons that I don't know. They offered it to Danny DeVito, who turned it down. They even said, if you play Mario, you'll get to direct the movie too. And he said no. They approached Arnold Schwarzenegger and Michael Keaton, both to play King Koopa, but they both turned down the role. What's interesting here is that John Leguizamo plays Luigi. They cast Leguizamo, but you know who they turned down? Because they said, you know, your last few movies have been a pretty massive clump of failures, so we're going to pass. Tom Hanks wanted to play Luigi in this movie, and they told him no. Can you imagine?
That is something you would never hear in a million years.
He wanted it. They said they considered him a failure. The directors of this movie were a husband and wife team. Their names were Rocky and Annabelle, and they were pretty much hated by the entire cast. In fact, Leguizamo and Hoskins spent the entire shoot drunk. At one point, crashed the Mario van that they were driving. They were driving it drunk, and I think Hoskins like broke his arm. You can see him wearing a cast in some of the movie. This is one of the reasons that I consider Mario to be an Italian from Brooklyn. He has this thick Brooklyn accent. They live in New York. I always associated that with Mario. The Mario of today, where it's me, Mario. I'm like, what is that? That's not what I'm familiar with. And that is because of not only this movie, but a show called the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, which I'll talk about in just a second.
Oh, I've seen that first episode. So funny.
The one with the girl from Charles in Charge?
Yeah, isn't she? Yeah, like, the girl that comes in and visits them.
It's so bizarre. Hold on. We'll get to that in a second. I think it was interesting that you said you're watching the Dick Van Dyke Show, because when they asked Hoskins originally to play Mario, he didn't want to do it. He said, I'm done with children's films. I've done Roger Rabbit. I've done Hook. I don't want to become Dick Van Dyke. They begged and pleaded, and they actually kept revising the script just to make him happy. They're like, what do you want us to change? What should we change? And they kept changing it for him till he said yes. He eventually said, well, in the right shape. I've got a mustache. And I also worked as a plumber's apprentice for about 3 weeks, and I set the plumber's boots on fire with a blowtorch. So I guess I'm qualified. They landed him, but before Super Mario Brothers is the show you were just talking about in the 80s, called the Super Mario Brothers Super Show. And on this show, again, they lived in Brooklyn. They had thick Brooklyn accents, like kind of almost like joke acts. Like Bob Hoskins pulls it off, especially having a Cockney accent. But if you watch the TV show, which is a weird hybrid of live action and cartoon, live action segments with like a sitcom audience, the characters are played by, let's start with Mario. Mario is played by a wrestler by the name of Captain Lou Albano. He was super passionate about this thing. He was like, he would do anything to be in. And so it's cool that he was so passionate about it. He comes from wrestling, so a lot of the guest stars on the show are from the WWF. They had some really bizarre guest stars on the show, which we'll get to in a second. But first, Luigi is played by a Canadian actor named Danny Wells. He's been in all kinds of movies, 70s Disney movies with Kurt Russell, like The Strongest Man in the World. He was in The Shaggy DA. He voiced a character in Hey Good Lookin', which is a Ralph Bakshi movie, and actually my favorite Ralph Bakshi movie. He was in Private Benjamin with Goldie Hawn. But Tyler, this will be of note to you. He played Dick Jennings in the movie Magnolia. He's the announcer at the quiz show.
Wow.
And I'm Dick Jennings. That's Danny Wells, who played Luigi. And he's actually, he died recently. And I think pretty much everyone associated with this show has passed on. So it's this weird live action cartoon hybrid. There were so many bizarre things about the show. Angel, you said you watched the one with Nicole Eggert, she was like the hottie from Charles in Charge, which was their first guest appearance. Do you remember like what you thought when you were watching that episode?
It's pretty much what, if you can, like the whole, what's the word I'm looking for? How everything is set up feels like a college students kind of just made it, like where you have the bathroom, you have like all these wacky, just weird,
it does feel like a college
pieces. Oh, the comedy is just like, they want to do it for children, but at the same time, it's kind of just like, these are adults talking. It's a different kind of humor, but that's only represented well for the era it came out in.
It's so bizarre that I have to highly recommend it, just for because it's not good. But I love it. I love it wholeheartedly in its not being good. It's one of those things that you watch kind of like an Ed Wood movie where there's so much passion there, but so many things done so poorly, and not even poorly, bizarrely. There are so many bizarre moments and dialogue and storylines that none of it works, but because none of it works, it all works. And Nintendo had nothing to do with it other than giving their blessings. It took them a full year of begging Nintendo to make this show. And when this show came out, it was huge. Lou Albano went on Regis and Kathy Lee to promote it. He went on like this full press tour. It was like a highly promoted show, but it just was not good. It was made by Deke, and I don't know, anyone who grew up in the 80s or was a child in the 80s, you remember seeing at the end of all the shittiest cartoons, this little kid laying in his window, and it goes outside of the window, and then
it's like a shooting star.
Yeah, the shooting star, and it says Deke. And so I always thought it was Dick, but it was kind of like, they're notoriously known now as like the worst animation studio of television history, but they made some of the most bizarre stuff, so it's like, they're also the most memorable. Let me just list a few of the guest stars on this show. Ernie Hudson shows up as a Ghostbuster. Vanna White from Wheel of Fortune shows up. We mentioned Nicole Eggert. Elvira shows up in an episode. Mentioned several WWF wrestlers. Magic Johnson as a guest star. Cyndi Lauper as a guest star. None of, like, what kid out there is like, oh my God.
Sounds pretty damn late 80s, early 90s right there.
Every Friday, they would have a segment where they would show a cartoon of Zelda. This is now like a meme out there, but if you're not familiar with the Zelda cartoon that was part of the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, Zelda has a catchphrase, which this ties into what we were talking about with Steve Martin. In the 70s, Steve Martin had a catchphrase.
Well, excuse me!
It wasn't really funny, but for some reason, everyone, he said it on Saturday Night Live, he said it in a stand-up. Well, they thought, well, now that would be something that Zelda should say as a catchphrase. So every single episode, sometimes several times within the episode, Link will say to Princess Zelda, "Excuse me, princess." So that's become my favorite thing to say around the house. "Excuse me, princess." But you can even look it up on YouTube. Someone made like a video of 15 minutes of Zelda saying that quote every time.
Which will cut to that clip right now.
Nice job, hero.
Hey, excuse me, princess. Look, princess, I can explain.
Don't talk, move. She's getting away.
Excuse me, princess.
If you want to watch this show, they have slightly edited versions on Netflix, but you can pretty much see all of it there. The Zelda cartoons aren't included, but they are on DVD. But if you want to watch this, I highly recommend pairing it with a podcast called the Video Game Super Show. They do commentary on every single episode. There are 52. They do commentary on the 52 episodes of the show. So if you ever wanted a lot of information about the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, it's all out there for you. They also made spin-offs like Super Mario World. They made a cartoon of Mario Brothers 3. None of these had the live action elements that were the meat and potatoes of the show. There's a Mario rap. There's not one, there's two. They actually rap in the show. If nothing else, listen to the rap online. It's incredible. That brings me to my official recommendation for my movie this week. No, it was not the 1993 Super Mario Brothers movie or the show.
Do you have any idea? I thought that's what that was. That's why I was like, oh, he chose that movie. Well, and now I'm surprised as to what you're gonna choose. I'm interested.
I'm actually shocked you're not recommending that. I mean,
I know.
I'm not sure you do, but
ladies and gentlemen, we got a twist on our hands.
Here's the twist, and it is a twist because they touted the 1993 Super Mario Brothers movie as being the first, not the first Mario movie, the first video game movie ever made. Turns out that's not true, because before that film and before the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, there was a Japanese anime in 1986 from director Masami Hata, and that was Super Mario Brothers: The Great Mission to Rescue Princess Peach! Exclamation point. This is a Japanese anime that I guess truer to the game than the TV show or the movie or anything that has come since outside of the video games, but it is odd. It is truly bizarre. You got to think too, this is the first time that anyone ever said, okay, here's a video game where we got a plumber running around, jumping on turtles, fighting dragons, I guess, dinosaur dragon, he loves mushrooms. Like, what's the story here? Considering that they took that material from the first three games, and I guess not even the first three games, it would just be Super Mario Brothers. Mario appeared in things like Donkey Kong before Super Mario Brothers. There's even a Mario game before Super Mario Brothers with Mario and Luigi. He's been different professions over the years. He's been a carpenter, most famously a plumber, which he's actually not anymore. So in this one, they said, well, what do we make him? No, let's make him a grocery store clerk. So Mario and Luigi work at a grocery store in this movie. The movie opens with them playing a video game, which is very bizarre to see Mario playing a video game. And he gets, the TV becomes kind of like a portal to another dimension, but instead of him getting sucked in, all of these characters come out of the screen, and they're characters that you recognize from the games. But ultimately, the classic story happens of Princess Peach is kidnapped by King Koopa, who demands to marry her on Friday the 13th. It's all about Mario and Luigi going on a quest to save the princess. It's Mario, Luigi, and their dog.
I cannot believe that this is a fucking thing right now. I wish you could see my face.
Now, you say that now, but wait till you watch it. This is not only a Japanese anime, it is also a musical, my friends. It is a musical.
What is going on? What is this movie?
This movie, okay, first thing I'm going to say, there are so many versions of this on YouTube where people they've dubbed it themselves, they've changed the soundtrack. There's just a mess of versions on YouTube. What I'm going to say is you absolutely have to watch this in the original language with the English subtitles.
What is this called?
Super Mario Brothers: The Great Mission to Rescue Princess Peach from 1986. The songs in this movie, it's not that Mario and Luigi are singing and dancing, but they use songs as commentary. But the commentary it provides there's a song called Doki Doki Do It, and it's singing about how awesome rock and roll is. Here are just a couple of lyrics from Doki Doki Do It, which once you listen to Doki Doki Do It, it's stuck in your head permanently. Some of the lyrics from that song are, that girl is so slap, slap, slappy. We are super, gonna bust you with my love. It's like Japanese rock band singles forced into the movie, and it makes no sense with the narrative. which is just one of the things that makes it so much fun. Mario was already popular in Japan. This production company collaborated with Nintendo to produce a Mario movie. This stuff is all very much documented online as far as the merchandise that was released. So I'm just going to read off here some of the stuff that's out there, but this is some of the most highly collectible Mario shit that you can find. It's some of the rarest stuff released in conjunction with this film. Phone cards, they released watches, rice containers, ramen noodles. There was a manga. There was an art book. I want all this stuff, especially the art book. There were 3 riddle books. There was a picture book. And here's the ultimate. There was a limited edition vinyl soundtrack that was limited to 50 copies.
Wow.
50 copies. Yeah, and inside they had a book about the movie and like all kinds of really cool artwork that only came with that. A lot of people have uploaded these images online, which I'll send to you. There are VHS that were released back in the day. Those are like, it says all merchandise associated with the film are extremely rare. The VHS tape being credited as one of the rarest pieces of Mario merchandise ever made. This movie, most people haven't heard of or seen unless you are deep in the Mario universe. Then you've probably come across it. So it's got a lot of huge underground fans, but for the most part, people don't generally know this movie exists because it officially exists anywhere that you can rent it or watch it, or you have to go to YouTube and you have to find. It is such a huge difference between hearing the original Japanese voices and versus the dubbed versions. The dubbed versions are just, bless them for trying, but you have to watch it in the original language and read the subtitles. It's the cleanest, crispest picture. I would call it the definitive restoration of the movie, even though it was fan restored. The YouTube user, the name is Magiblot1. That's Magiblot1. When the video gets pulled up, it'll even say in the title of the video, it's the best quality. It'll say best quality. Watch that one if you're going to watch this thing. The story, the dialogue, the music, all of it is something that I plead Severin Kids to release this on Blu-ray. This seems like something that's right up their alley because it's a Mario movie, but it's not. But it is, but it's not. It would be a perfect Severin release.
How would Nintendo feel about this now? This movie?
I don't know because one thing I didn't mention to you is that the characters curse. Yeah, there's like
Severin, get on it.
So it's interesting to see Mario characters cursing. That might be something they have a big issue with. I don't know. I think that they would be happier seeing this release than the Bob Hoskins movie. If we're talking about Nintendo, this would be the most closely related I would put this movie to is the Super Mario Adventures comic book, which originally, if you subscribed to Nintendo Power in the 90s, each issue they had a new adventure, one page full of panels for a comic book, Super Mario Adventures. These were so well written and so funny, and I even love the art that they used. They recently, in the past few years, released a book of the comics that all appeared. They're all in like one collection. The stories, the dialogue, it's all very, very strange. It kind of reminds me of Paper Mario, which is known for more like the story and the weird dialogue. That's the closest thing I would compare this to. So maybe Nintendo would be okay with it because they're not making money off of it now. Everyone's watching it on YouTube. You know it would sell. All of the fans of this movie would buy it, and all the people who'd never heard of it would be like, I gotta buy it. I think it's an ideal Severin Kids release if that could ever happen, and connects directly to David Gregory producing the Mario documentary.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to end this review with the lyrics to the 80s love ballad that was sung by Mami Yamase, who was a very big pop star in Japan at the time. She voiced Princess Peach in this movie. I hope the podcast ends fading out on this love ballad. The movie fades out on this love ballad, and it does not go along with the visual at all. What you're watching on the screen is Mario and Luigi doing this goofy walk. They're just walking. The credits are rolling on top of them, and they're just doing this goofy walk, and this 80s love song ballad is playing. First of all, this movie has a twist ending that I did not see coming. It's actually genuinely shocking. And secondly, long before Marvel, actually has a post-credit sequence. So suck on that.
It has it all, dude.
But I'm going to end my review with reading the lyrics to this love ballad because, Tyler, if you do play it, it's sung in Japanese, so you won't know the lyrics. But these lyrics they don't belong in a Mario movie. Mario is lovesick after Princess Peach, as you might imagine. The song is sung by a female called Adieu, My Love, My Feelings. And the lyrics are, when I fall in love, I will be happy. The day will come someday. I love that. The day will come someday. In the canvas of my heart is your figure, shining forth your hair and your smile. In this industrial jungle, sadness embraces all. Such is the night demon. On days when I cannot sleep, I send my heart far away, riding on the wind to whisper into your ear, I love you. Like Adam's song from long ago, I love you. By the way, that's a biblical reference they just threw in there. Like Adam's love from long ago, I love you. If I can only tell you how I feel, just for now, close your eyes and lean on my chest, softly. I want to be by your side, gathering happiness on that windowsill. In the cafe of my heart, if I see you again, we'll know it's true. That is Adieu, My Love, My Feelings from the Super Mario Brothers
I
movie.
just imagine Mario singing this to Luigi.
I love you.
Let's gather happiness on that windowsill. So there you go. That's my movie recommendation for the week.
Do I dare ask what you would want to pair this up with as a double feature?
I would pair this up with Super Mario Brothers from 1993, where the Mario movie began and where it ends, and where it has ended Nintendo's attempts at making a Mario movie. And for a long time, that ended their desire to make any movie at all. I think the next one that would be made is Detective Pikachu.
I don't know if you know this, but Universal Illumination now owns the rights to the movie property of Mario.
Which is interesting because Nintendo is saying now, as of this year, we feel like we're on the right track, but they have to convince us. They've given them permission to work on it, but they haven't. They are very, very protective and paranoid by whatever. And Illumination, to be honest, is probably the worst animation company out there because they're...
Yes.
I don't like the look of their movies. I don't like the humor of their movies. They have moments, but for the most part, yeah, they're making lots of money and they make a lot of profit. It doesn't mean they're good. What I want out of animation, you don't find any of it in these movies. Anything that I find funny in an Illumination movie, you could do better in a live action movie. That being said, I am nervous, but I trust that Nintendo's not going to release anything that's crap. I'd hope. I really don't know. Detective Pikachu was the first time they had the courage to put out a Nintendo movie, I think, since Super Mario Brothers. And
not that bad.
It was actually like they did it. My gripe with it is that it's Who Framed Roger Rabbit. That's my problem with it. It's taking the character of Pikachu and making him, finding an excuse to make him Ryan Reynolds for the whole film. He's not Pikachu. He's it's this warped version put into a retelling of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. But they shot it on film. Everything is gorgeous. Ryan Reynolds actually does not annoy me in the movie. He's got some funny lines, and I think it is a great movie. And especially coming from, a lifetime of Nintendo refusing to make movies of their games, that's a pretty good resurgence from 1993. We'll see what Illumination does. I don't know how you make a Mario movie in 2020. I honestly don't.
Well, you can't because everything's closed.
It's to me. I guess you could make it because you don't need to be around anyone to make an animated film. Everyone could do their part, even voice recording. So I'm very interested to see where that goes. But it's his 35th anniversary. I started playing the Origami King when it came out last week. I am in Mario mode. I have two modes. I'm either in movie mode or video game mode, and never am I in both at the same time. I'm completely focused on one or the other. So that Origami King was released. I've spent a lot of time in the last week playing that as opposed to watching movies. So yes, I felt this was the perfect time to celebrate 35 years and recommend a movie that you probably haven't seen.
Oh, yeah. I remember watching the Super Mario World animation show in like 91, like
that. Okay,
on
so
the Family
that was
Network.
That was paired, I don't know if you remember this, that was paired with a cartoon that used to be standalone, but they merged them for Super Mario World called Captain N. This is another just like shit fest that you've got to look at. Captain N, the Game Master. I posted a photo of my DVD last week with the Nintendo Zapper. This is a show about a kid who gets sucked into his TV to fulfill a prophecy of becoming a great hero to save all these video game characters. In the show, they have characters like Mother Brain from Metroid. They have Mega Man. They have Kid Icarus. They have characters from Punch-Out. They have Simon from Castlevania. But none of them are even close to being accurate to the source material. Mega Man sounds like an old man dying of throat cancer. Like he is like, hey, everybody. It's like, what is that voice? Mother Brain is voiced, I don't know if you saw Little Shop of Horrors, but a member of the band, the Four Tops, voices Audrey, the piranha plant in Little Shop of Horrors. He voices Mother Brain. So you imagine Mother Brain, this alien from Metroid, having just this booming demonic voice when it's like, oh, hey, Captain. It's bizarre. Everything about that show is on par with bizarreness, as is the Super Mario Brothers Super Show. If you want to see some truly horrifying shit from the 80s, watch those two shows back to back. Captain and the Game Master, there's so many tribute videos to it online. I can't remember who did it, but there's one like 20-minute video on YouTube where a girl is she's dressed as Captain N, and she's from one of like the game or from one of the video game network accounts, but she does like a 20-minute tribute to the show, and it really fills you in on all the bizarre behind the scenes stuff of how it even existed. But it's one of those shows that's like, how does this exist? Man, we fell down a rabbit hole there, but there you go.
I mean, it's about a plumber going down 10-foot pipes. Like, it has to be bizarre.
What do you do when you make a live action movie?
It's like when they wanted to do a Hello Kitty cartoon. It's like, is she gonna have a mouth? What's she gonna sound like?
Well, that's the thing about Mario now. Like when Mario, for me as a kid, Mario was from Brooklyn. He loves pasta. In fact, in Super Mario Brothers Super Show, it's insinuated that there is a pasta god that they pray to, because it sounds like a little bit of a joke whenever they do this chant. But every time they do this chant, something magical happens that saves them. And the chant is, patty cake, pasta man. Give me pasta power as fast as you can. And then something magical happens.
They were high. They had munchies.
I don't know how you go to live action territory. I think that if you watch the Super Mario Brothers live action movie today and take into consideration what would you do if you were in that position, there's some really incredible sets. It's all like the set design is all real. Nothing's done with computers with that. There's puppets. They used a little bit of CGI because that was the same year that Jurassic Park came out. In fact, the production team of Jurassic Park was in awe of their Yoshi. And their Yoshi puppet, I think it might be a mix of CGI and puppetry, but mainly it's a puppet. It's in the room with Princess Daisy, and it's like, I think every kid on earth wanted that live Yoshi puppet. Like, if that was a toy, we would all own it. There's some really cool special effects if you watch it just for the special effects alone, but you're also talking about amazing actors in these roles. And even though they were miserable on the set, watching that movie, even with its problems, which there are a few, it's fun to watch how they all work together. It's not like it's a new Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Like, there's not amazing chemistry, but the fact that Dennis Hopper comes onto the set and says, hey, I was thinking that King Koopa, since he evolved from the lizards, he's the lizard king. He was a T-Rex. In his truest form, he's a T-Rex. Wouldn't his mannerisms involve his hands sometimes going back to being a T-Rex stand? So if you watch the movie very subtly, well, it's not so subtle if you go back and watch it, but I never realized it until I heard that interview with him. If you watch the movie, he's always walking with his hands curled up like he's a T-Rex, like a grown man pretending to be a T-Rex. That's how Dennis Hopper walks throughout the entire movie. And that's his idea. Like, these actors were so into who is Mario and who is Luigi Mario, who is King Koopa. There's a lot of stuff there that's fascinating, and it's gotten a really bad rap. But I stand by that film as being actually good.
Mm-hmm.
A batshit crazy Super Mario anime, right? anime?
Japanese anime, yeah.
And Super Mario Bros. The movie with Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo. Oh my God. That is, I'm sorry. My brain is still trying to wrap around this whole anime idea of Mario. Just everything you described is, I need to see it now because I just have no idea I can't think about it. I can't picture it in my head. It's so hard.
Here's the good news for you, and squeezing it in. It's only 60 minutes. This movie was released theatrically, but it's only 60 minutes.
Easy.
And Luigi wears blue.
Okay,
And
that's
yeah,
it.
there are things that are off. Luigi is like Uncle Scrooge in this movie, where he's obsessed with money. And I guess they were trying to explain like why there's coins everywhere. You're trying to collect all these coins. Well, maybe one of them is like obsessed with money, so he's kind of like Scrooge McDuck in the movie. There's so many things about the characters that did not stick, that when you watch this, you're like, what? There are things about even King Koopa where you're like, well, why can he magically transform into a woman? And that'll make sense when you watch the movie.
Something makes sense.
Oh, enjoy. It's, if you even just have the slightest interest in animation or Mario Brothers, you'll get a kick out of this.
Well, there you go. There you go. Okay, I gotta level with you. My choice for this week is not even nearly close to anything as interesting. Like I said, this week I haven't been able to watch a ton of movies, so I was trying to figure out what to watch, and yesterday in the mail came a movie that I pre-ordered from Criterion a while back, and it came in and I was like, oh my God, I need to watch this now. So I watched all of the special features on this thing, and then I watched the movie afterwards. And I can still safely say now, I don't care if people give me crap or not, this was one of my favorite movies of last year. I made a top whatever list of 2019. This is still in my number one, and that is none other than Noah Baumbach's Marriage Story.
People don't accept mothers who drink too much wine and yell at their child and call him an asshole. I get it. I do it too. We can accept an imperfect dad. Let's face it, the idea of a good father was only invented like 30 years ago. Before that, fathers were expected to be silent and absent and unreliable and selfish. And we can all say we want them to be different. But on some basic level, we accept them. We love them for their fallibilities, but people absolutely don't accept those same failings in mothers. We don't accept it structurally, and we don't accept it spiritually, because the basis of our Judeo-Christian whatever is Mary, mother of Jesus, and she's perfect. She's a virgin who gives birth, unwaveringly supports her child, and holds his dead body when he's gone. And the dad isn't there. He didn't even do the fucking. God is in heaven. God is the Father, and God didn't show up. So you have to be perfect, and Charlie can be a fuck up, and it doesn't matter. You will always be held to a different, higher standard. And it's fucked up, but that is the way it is.
I watched all the special features on the Criterion last night. Phenomenal, dude.
I didn't even realize that it was already out.
It just came out on the 21st, and it is by far, like, I don't know how to describe this release, dude.
That
it's
movie
just
deserves
so good.
Criterion.
You know what's amazing about this movie is that about this release is I found out that there was a 1 hour, 37 minute, some guy just had a camera every time they were on a certain set that day, and he just recorded Baumbach and the actors talking about the day and what they were going to do and how they were shooting things. Like, it's an hour and 37 minutes of multiple scenes of the movie, and it's just a guy with a camcorder just walking around recording everything, and it's incredible.
To connect that, something that I forgot to mention earlier, but that connects to what you just said, when we were talking about Rob Zombie's Halloween earlier, I don't know if either one of you have ever clicked to watch the documentary on the Blu-ray.
Yeah.
But if you press start and then you check, well, let's see how long this is. It's over 4 hours.
Oh yeah, he released a DVD that's just a 2-disc of just that huge. Long
I didn't know. I was
documentary.
like, I started watching the other night. And I was like, well, how much more do we got? 3.5 hours left. Oh my God. But I love I think we've talked about the Magnolia documentary. I love those fly on the wall documentaries, just people with cameras on set. Like, I hate that prepackaged, like, glossed, like super shiny glossy bullshit. Give me fly on the wall. I want to be there. So that's exciting to know that Marriage Story has that.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. That Magnolia documentary is, I like to go back to that video like once or twice a year. I go back to it, and I just want it to fuel me into like writing something or watching more movies. Like that is a phenomenal, that one's almost an hour long. But what I love what they do in this Marriage Story release is that when they're filming a specific scene or they're talking about it, they cut to the footage from the movie and they jump back to it. So people are not in the dark as to what scene they're rehearsing or anything. It jumps into that scene, comes back, and then they're talking about it. And just seeing the actors go like in their different, like in the context of where they're saying, like maybe they're doing it in a higher setting, like, well, I thought this. And then like the next take is them like saying it lower and they're trying to figure things out. Like Baumbach is such an interesting director. Like just the way he works is so weird, but in a good way. Yeah. And like, he's just talking to Adam Driver and they're having like this very intimate conversation about the courtroom scene. And they're trying to like kind of get the gist of what Adam's talking to Noah about, and Noah's trying to get the same ways about it. And all the actors are just sitting there listening and they're just like kind of waiting things out. Every time the camera shows up to Adam Driver, he flips off the camera. I just love that little thing. It just, because they've been on set for so long. So that was really great. This is a Criterion release and it is Spine number 1038. It was released August 29th, 2019 at the Venice Film Festival, has a 137-minute runtime, produced by David Heyman, who had produced all the Harry Potter films and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Coincidentally enough, he produced 2 of my favorite movies of 2019. So thank you very much for that, Mr. Heyman. Adam Driver, Scarlett Johansson, Laura Dern, Alan All. This cast is huge in this movie. Everyone is incredible.
And that movie, I know a lot of people who haven't watched it because they think they know what it's going to be, which is exactly what I assumed it was going to be, which is, 2 hours of just a depressing breakup, like a divorce. Like it just, the whole idea of the movie seems heavy. I think the entire experience sitting in the theater watching it was, I would define it as light. I was happy the whole time because the dialogue, the performances, and the story went places that I just was not expecting. To call a movie about divorce fun, I think it's a fun movie to watch. And yeah, there are moments that like hit hard, like scenes where they just like, they deserve awards for whatever dark place they went to inside of them to achieve some of those fight scenes.
Yeah.
Are
like the infamous apartment scene.
I was, speaking of fly on the wall, I was in the room with them in that apartment when they were having that argument. It was like watching a stage play. Like you feel like you're there in the room with them. The comedy in that movie, the amount of times that I laughed in the theater, I was not expecting. It plays out like a 1930s comedy a lot of the times. I loved it.
It's so crazy that way, man. Like even just watching that Fly on the Wall documentary on the Blu-ray, and they show that scene in the apartment, like that's probably my favorite part of the documentary, because Baumbach is talking to Scarlett and Adam, and he's literally breaking down almost each line to the actor. So he's telling them what they're going to be experiencing throughout the whole scene. Like that's amazing to me, because a director doesn't have to go, like they can be specific, but I love the fact that he cares about his script so much as a director that he's going to tell them everything play by play, because this particular scene was taking place over the course of 3 days. They shot that scene over the course of 3 days. And when you get to that scene, when he punches spoilers, sorry, but when he's punching the wall and he's just like going down on his knees and holding Scarlett's legs and he's crying, like that is such a heavy scene to watch without the music and the edits or anything. Like just watching that from behind the camera, that's some fucking powerful stuff. Like Scarlett just had to like leave the room. She couldn't even be in there. And Adam Driver's just getting up and he's wiping his tears and he's trying to like get back to reality. Like to try and do more than one take of that just seems incredibly exhausting. That just seems like so hard to do. And that's why I have to praise Driver and Johansson for like just killing those roles.
Some of this movie is about making movies or making TV shows, which is a fun to see. But I was a tour guide at Warner Brothers after this movie came out, and there's a scene where Scarlett Johansson has finished filming something and she comes out of the barn door. She comes out of the elephant door from a sound stage. The stage she's coming out of is the oldest sound stage at Warner Brothers. It's actually where I saw Millie Bobby Brown while giving a tour. She was standing outside and she was filming the new Godzilla movie. So if you're ever wondering, that sound stages where they filmed the new Godzilla, but they filmed like movies all the way back to the 1930s on that stage. Like everything. I think like 3 of the best picture winners shot on that stage. But it was so cool. Every time I drove by, I would always say like, who's seen Marriage Story? Like that's where she came out. But yeah, I love that it had that aspect of Hollywood in it too.
The cinematography was done by Robbie Ryan, who had done Noah's previous film, The Meyerowitz Stories. And he also did the cinematography for the Yorgos Lanthimos' film, The Favorite, which was one of my favorites of that Oscar season. That's a phenomenal movie. I highly recommend that one. And a lot of Andrea Arnold's work. She did Big Little Lies, but he didn't do the camera work for that. But he did do the camera work for like American Honey and Fish Tank and those previous films. The
Fish
original
Tank's great.
score. Yeah, Fish Tank is a great movie. But the score by Randy Newman, that is, to me, the highlight of this movie. Like, there's a whole featurette about that on the Blu-ray, and it's so good, dude. Like, Randy Newman he wrote the theme for the movie before they shot anything. He just read the script, and he already had the theme ready in his head. Like, that's incredible. And then Baumbach would send a different scene that they shot every day to him, and he would just keep writing music for it until they got it right. And then when they went into recording soundstage to actually record the score, wrote the music, he conducts it, he conducts the orchestra. Like, that's just so amazing to me. Like, Randy Newman is such a treasure. Like, he did the Toy Story films, he also did the Meyerowitz Stories at Pleasantville. He's done so many scores for so many movies, and that man is a treasure. Like, I love all of the work he's done in good old Hollywood. But
He did that Short People song. The first time I heard Short People was on Ally McBeal, and I couldn't believe that it was an actual real Randy Newman single. But they had a musical episode of Ally McBeal that they sang it on, and I thought that this is Ally McBeal has done it. They've done something genius and very offensive. But I was like, oh, it's Randy Newman.
I wish I could just walk into like a Barnes and Noble and just like pick it up, because this whole style shit, it's a nightmare.
yeah, trying to get any movies is a nightmare. That's why, like, when they had it on pre-order, I knew that if I got it, it was going to ship out at some point. So let me see. The whole hour, 37-minute featurette documentary thing. There's featurette with the actors, Noah Baumbach. There's the Randy Newman and his score. I watched all of it, and all of it is so informative, dude. Like, it's packed to almost like 3 hours of bonus features. Like, there's a hefty amount of shit in this Blu-ray, and I can't recommend it enough, especially if people haven't seen Marriage Story. You know, it's on Netflix, but if you want to like get the good version of this, they did a brand new 4K scan for this movie, and it looks gorgeous. The movie was shot on film, and it was shot on a 1/66 aspect ratio, so they do a lot of close-ups and do a lot of like not intricate camera work, but a lot of it is pretty much just like focused on the actors. And the scan is great, and it shows a lot of the film grain. It looks like a classic 70s movie in a way, but it's very much modern. I think the scan and the restoration on it is amazing. And when you get the Blu-ray, it comes in a digipack. So when you open it up, you get the letters that Charlie and Nicole wrote to each other in the movie, which leads into this good old box of books I have right over here. So when the movie came out, Jason was the absolute G, and at Amoeba, he found the Assuline copy of Marriage Story. It's basically 2 books, one that says Charlie, one that says Nicole, and they have photos from the film, they have like some of the script in it, and they also have those letters, but I checked both of them, and the Assuline is a little bit better quality than the Criterion, but I understand why. He got it for $50. He got it for $50, and on their website, it's $175. So I couldn't believe that he found it at such a good deal. I have it with me right here. I'm literally looking at the Blu-ray in front of me. Under that is
sealed.
Like, yeah, and it was sealed too. And I took a look at some of the pages and stuff. It just looked so brand new. I didn't want to open it. Like, it's just one of those things where like you wish you can open it, but you're like, it's just so beautiful. But I opened it anyway, and it's gorgeous, dude. Like, I think this movie is so great, or there's so much I can talk about of this movie, but I feel like the best way to do it is just to go watch it. I feel like if you just watch the movie, you can form your own opinion and you can figure out whether you like it or not, because a lot of Baumbach's work is very 50-50 depending on people. Like, if you love a lot of dialogue and you love focusing on character performances rather than like big set pieces, he's the guy you're going to go to. But I feel if you're going to be going toward like bigger movies, he's not like that. I think when you watch films like The Squid and the Whale and Francis Ha, like those are his like some of his best movies because they're so personal. And at the same time, like Squid and the Whale was based off of his parents' divorce, and Francis Ha was when he was with Greta Gerwig. He is with Greta Gerwig and they just had a child, but this was in the first 2 years of their relationship, and Greta really wanted to make a movie. It's almost about her life than anything because she wrote the script with him, so that was very much her movie. But there's like this personality to every single film that Noah Baumbach does, and I think that's why you can just appreciate each film for what they are, especially the Meyerowitz stories. Like a lot of people don't know about the Meyerowitz stories, and it is so good, which that is what I put as my double feature. If you pair this as a double feature, Marriage Story is the first one, and the Meyerowitz stories, New and Selected, is the second one. Both of these films are on Netflix, but if you want to pick up the definitive version of Marriage Story, go pick it up on Criterion. I think it's the best way to see the movie with all the special features it has, including that incredible documentary. But if I want to pull a Jason and you want to do a triple feature of this movie, I would do Marriage Story, the Meyerowitz stories, and Francis Ha. Francis Ha was paired. Yeah.
All three. Oh wait, you're just gonna say this, but all three of those movies, I was very fortunate to see at the New Beverly.
The New Bev did show all three of these movies at different separate times, except Marriage Story and Francis Ha, they did a double feature of, and I was gracious enough to go with Jason to that one, and Noah Baumbach and Sean Levy were there doing a Q&A after Marriage Story, which was awesome because he was there for both nights. But the man is just so, I don't know how to put into words how he is. I think he's just such a fascinating person in the way he goes about making movies. And I think when you watch that featurette or documentary, you'll get a sense of who he is as a person as it kind of goes on. But he's very much a character
humor.
director.
If you like Wes Anderson movies, he co-wrote with Wes Anderson on some stuff. He's such a great comic writer. His movies, if you enjoy film, if you enjoy a story in your movies, it's literally in the title, Marriage Story. This is a great story with insane performances. And whether you care about a drama about like a love story, or I guess you call it an anti-love story, if it's not your cup of tea at first glance, doesn't matter. This thing's so compelling that you're sucked in from the first frame and you care. They give such incredible performances, but you're sucked in and you do care about this marriage. You're like, God, they can't break up.
And honestly, for a kid performance in this film, the kid who plays the son of both Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson, he's honestly better than a lot of the other kid performances out there. And the fact that Noah Baumbach can do that and actually work with kids and it's still good, I'm like, this motherfucker can't quit. He's on a roll.
Yeah, it's so hard to find child performances that aren't annoying. Everyone tells me that the Jurassic Park kids are annoying, but I still can't see it. Movies with kids that you loved as a kid, when you grow up and everyone's like, they were so annoying. You're like, no, they're my family. But yeah, the kids in this movie are fantastic.
Overall, that is going to be my pick for the week is Marriage Story. If you want to do a double feature, the Meyerowitz stories, New and Selected. If you want to do a triple feature, Francis Ha. And if you really want to get depressed and do a quadruple feature, do The Squid and the Whale. If you want to keep it easy, Marriage Story and the Meyerowitz stories. Marriage Story and Francis Ha are on the Criterion Collection, so you can go pick those up at any time. Marriage Story just got released on the 21st, like I said, and Meyerowitz is on Netflix, so if you want to check that out, please feel free. And also I just have to mention before I finish up with mine, Laura Dern deserved that Oscar. Out of all the Oscars that they were nominated for, I'm so glad Laura Dern won that Oscar. It was very well deserved. Just want to cap that off.
She's a treasure.
Was David Lynch camping outside for her too?
Is outside of the New
We've
Bev.
still got to watch Inland Empire.
Oh God, yeah.
Well, it's what he did it. That's what the movie he did it for. Laura Dern is just, even though I feel like she has been praised a lot the past few years, it's not enough.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
It needs to be bigger and louder. More Oscars, more love, more noise for Laura Dern.
Well, there you go, everybody. Those are our picks of the week. Angel's been doing it for the past 2 episodes, so you wanna do a recap of everything?
Oh damn, that was a lot of stuff.
No.
Sister Street Fighter Collection from Arrow Video, A Marriage Story from the Criterion Collection, Jason, the name of your anime, I'm sure you took notes.
It's,
If you're listening, you took notes.
It's actually only available unless you find one of the, I mean, what is coined the rarest piece of Mario memorabilia out there. You're probably not going to find the VHS copy, but they did a great, there's even at the end of the YouTube video, they have their own little bonus feature where they show how the fans actually restored it on their own without any source materials. So you can get some bonus features out of it, but it's Super Mario Brothers, The Great Mission to Rescue Princess Peach. It's on YouTube. Once again, only watch it at the user MagiBlot1. That's the only one I recommend to watch.
The link for that YouTube will be in the description as well, so you guys don't have to do a whole crazy search for it. I got you, fam. Thank you so much for coming on down to Movie Land Video, everybody. I think this might be one of our longest episodes yet because we're like over 2 hours. So I really hope you get to witness all of this crazy stuff. I mean, I had no idea that the Halloween tangent was going to get into it, and I'm so glad it did because that was incredible. But if you want to follow us on all of our social medias, we're on Instagram, Twitter, Letterboxd. You can go check us out there. You can also check out our YouTube channel for the podcast as well. If you're watching it there, great. If not, we're also on iTunes and Spotify. Support us however you can. We hit 40 downloads on the first episode, which was huge for us. Keep supporting it. We really, really appreciate it. And as always, be kind and just rewind.
It's closing time.
Yeah.
Closing time.
I know who I want to take me to Movie Land Video in the middle of nowhere, USA. I know who I... Okay, that's it. Thank you so much, everybody.
One last call for Kevin Costner.
Thank you so much for coming on down to Movie Land Video, everybody. Take care and stay safe.
And we're going to fade out to that beautiful song.